Hello, world. So, we are going to talk about Warbreaker today. I have finally read Warbreaker. I have no idea why it took me such a long time to read this book. I'm a huge Brandon Sanderson fan. I've been a huge Brandon Sanderson fan for 10 years. More? That's, we don't need to go down that road. Nevertheless, for whatever reason, I have not picked up this book. So, just as a bit of an aside, I'm actually not a very large fan of standalone fantasy books. And the reason is quite simple, is because usually when I read a book, a fantasy book that I really enjoy and I really like the world, I want to read more of it and I want to live in that world a little longer. And a standalone book, obviously, when you get to the end, it's done and it's over. And I get a little bit of, I get a little sad. So I don't gravitate towards standalone books, but it's Brandon Sanderson. So of course I am going to read everything that he writes. So Warbreaker it's set in the Cosmere. It is a Cosmere book. And if you have read Stormlight Archives, you should probably read this one because there is some overlap. But anyway, so as a synopsis, set in a world where we have this magic system that is made out of breaths and colors. In typical Brandon Sanderson style, the magic system is really well fleshed out. It is a hard magic system. It has very clear rules and limitations, and it's such a unique and interesting magic system. This one, I really like it. So what happens is we have our big kingdom, I'm going to call it. And our big kingdom has a religion where individuals who die, or every now and then the universe, I guess, for lack of a better term, brings them back to life. And when the universe brings these people back to life, they're called returned, and they have special powers and abilities. And in our big kingdom, they are considered to be deities. And people worship them, and that's that. Then we have a smaller kingdom where these returned are not worshipped as deities, and they follow a religion called austere, and they don't believe in the same things, and they actually are quite critical of our big kingdom and the big kingdom's way of life. I mean, the religion is called austere. So, they're not so big on the color. Anyway, in our little kingdom, there are other kingdoms, but it doesn't really matter. In our little kingdom, we have a royal family that has four kids, and our oldest daughter is supposed to go on her 22nd birthday to the big kingdom and marry their supreme god. So her 22nd birthday comes along, and her father, the king, just doesn't want to send her for lots of different reasons, and they end up sending the youngest daughter, who I think is 17 at the time, to go marry the supreme god. So youngest daughter trots off, and once she goes off and marries the supreme god, the oldest daughter is quite resentful of this, for not because she's resenting her sister, just because she's a bit adrift, and she decides to go after her and to save her. Now, that's about as much as I can say of the plot without giving anything away. But What did I like about this book? I love the characters. The characters were really interesting. They were unique. They had a lot of change and growth, particularly our oldest sister. She goes through what I like to think is one of the most interesting character arcs. I quite liked it. But all of the characters in the story, they go about interesting changes. They're dynamic, and the challenges that they're facing, they don't always they don't always meet the challenges. Sometimes things go a bit awry, and that's entertaining. The second thing that I liked about this book is the magic system. Gosh, the magic system was cool. I mean, breaths, and then the more breaths you get, the more you can animate things and you can see color more clearly and the world becomes more saturated. And yeah, the magic system was really good and really very much added depth to this world. Third thing, world building. World was well fleshed out. Again, Brandon Sanderson. What more can I say, really? But yes, this was a fully fleshed out world. It felt real. It felt like you could go there and it would exist in a way that was palatable. And finally, I liked the plot. I think there were some elements of this plot that weren't the best. It wasn't necessarily Brandon at his highest, but there were some twists and turns that were very enjoyable and that I did not see it coming. And when those were revealed, it was definitely a titillating moment. So, great. Things that I didn't like in this book. I didn't really like the ending. Not because I didn't like what happened at the end per se. It's just that the last 50 to 100 pages of the book were really rushed. I felt like basically Brandon had another book's worth of story to tell, or another half a book worth of story to tell, and he just kind of crammed it into 100 pages. So I would have liked to see that the last part of the book, there were some reveals that I could have spent a little bit more time with that. So, but really that was my main criticism of this book. I loved it. I love this book. It was really good. Oh, whoa. We'll get there. I love this book. It was so good. So this is a solid 4 out of 5 for me. I don't think Brandon Sanderson is planning to write any more in this particular world anytime soon. I think it might be in the distant future after Mistborn Era 3 and Stormlight Archive 5 and 6. But I really wish he did. I'm not ready to leave this world. I really want to see what happens with the rest of the characters. Again, if you have read the Stormlight Archive, there's some overlap. And that's really fun to read as well. So 4 out of 5 for me on this book. If you like fantasy, you should probably read it. If you like Brandon Sanderson, you probably already have, and unlike me, you're not as behind as I clearly am. Anyway, have a lovely day, people. Like, subscribe, support what I do here, and we'll talk soon. Bye.